All right, everybody, good evening. It is 10 o'clock Tuesday night before Thanksgiving, and we are preparing the turkey. The first step is my turkey brine. So I like to brine my turkey beforehand. I feel it gives it a lot of flavor and gives it more moisture into the meat. Um, so I brine my turkeys. I've been doing this for 3 or 4 years now. And it works great. The white meat comes out tender and juicy. And this is what I feel that this is a key part of it. So my recipe here, um, I forget where I got this online somewhere. It's great. Um, First thing we're doing is bringing 6 cups of water to boil. We're going to be adding, we need 2 cups of chicken broth. I've already gone ahead and thrown stuff on the counter, of course. So to do that, we're going to just add 2 cups of water to our 6 cups. This is boiling water, just because I'm being lazy about it. So we have a total of 8 cups in there now. You could just start that way, but I don't know why I do it this way, but I do. So then, 2 teaspoons of your chicken bouillon. If you choose to use something like the pre-mixed and bottled or boxed chicken stock, that works great as well. I did that 2 weeks ago. Turned out wonderful. So yeah, however you do your chicken stock will great. A slotted spoon for mixing, just because we're trying to get this to a gentle boil while we add our ingredients in. So next up, we need salt. The recipe I have, which I can share, it does specifically say kosher salt. I have used kosher sea salt, Himalayan pink salt, and have not noticed. I wouldn't know the differences between any of those enough to notice a flavor difference. So it's never been something I worried about. Just use whatever salt I had on hand that was, cooking salt. So we're going to go in with a half cup of this. Measurements don't have to be exact. Close enough is good enough. The last batch of turkeys I did the other week, I kind of eyeballed everything, and everything turned out with great flavor. Along with having done this for my own turkeys, for family and such dinners, I've also done this. 2 weeks ago, I did this for a work lunch, where we smoked about 350 pounds of turkey breast on a commercial size smoker, and they turned out great. I still have leftovers in my fridge. For anyone that doesn't like that, for anyone that's like me and doesn't like the white meat because it is just dry and flavorless, this makes it moist and flavorful. So, no, this is part of it. The other part I'll tell you about in a bit. Okay, so we've got our half cup of salt. Now we need a 1/4 cup of honey. Mine's a little solidified, so I'm going to run it under some hot water for a minute. All right, after much encouragement, we have our 1/4 cup of honey, so we're going to go ahead and stir that whole. I have a metal measuring cup, so I'm just going to use that to stir it in. Next in, we're going in with 2 tablespoons of sugar and 2 teaspoons of black peppercorns. I don't have all black peppercorns. I have a peppercorn medley, so it's black and white. Still works great. You just want to help impart some of that peppery goodness flavor into the meat. So we've got our chicken broth, our salt, our honey, our sugar, our black pepper, or our peppercorns, excuse me. Now for the good part, one of the good parts. 8 sprigs of fresh rosemary. So this rosemary that I found over at Macy's. Blue. Just all of it. And then finally, 4 cloves of smashed garlic. I've never actually done it with smashed garlic. I've always just used minced garlic in these bottles, and it turns out great. I'm sure if you used smashed garlic, it would turn out probably better, but I don't know. So it says 4 plus cloves, and in my house we are fans of garlic, so you know that big spoonful would probably be about 4 cloves. We're going to do another scoop, about the same amount, because garlic is delicious and supposedly good for your immune system. So now we're just going to let that simmer and steep and combine, and you can smell the rosemary and the garlic and the honey, and it is already smelling delicious. All right. So once we're ready to actually put our turkeys in the brine, we need some sort of vessel to hold the turkey. I have used large mixing bowls that fit the turkey. I have used 5-gallon or 10-gallon buckets, the blue buckets from Lowe's or the orange ones from Home Depot, just, you know, the big buckets. I've used those with a screw top lid. That works great. Right now, my go-to is this 22-quart food service bucket with the snap-on lid. Picked it up at a restaurant supply store in Salt Lake, and all it gets used for is turkey and chicken and brining other deliciousness. Works great. I've been able to fit about a 17-pound bird in this one. The plan for this Thanksgiving is, due to the number of people we have coming and the size of birds we were able to locate, we are going with 2 12-pound birds. And to make sure they fit in my bucket, I'm going to quarter them. So I'll separate the leg quarters, and then I'll split the breast, remove the spine, and do a breast and a wing, and then each leg quarter. And that'll definitely guarantee that it fits better in my bucket. And then when it comes to actually smoking it, I'll be able to put the breasts nearer to the fire and the thighs and legs farther away, making sure that I get proper cooking, because I've found that the breasts cook a lot faster than the hindquarters. And so I want to the hindquarters cook a lot faster than the breasts. So I want to make sure that I get a somewhat even cook time. And if probably I end up cooking, or the hindquarters cook faster than the breasts, I can pull those separately and keep them warm while the breasts finish off. So that's the plan for tonight, is to get them quartered up. I will show some of that process as I'm going through it. But for right now with the brine, the goal is to let it simmer like this for a few more minutes, get it into this bucket with a bunch of ice to cool it off, because we don't want the brine cooking the turkey. We want the turkey to just marinate in that. We're going to be marinating in it for about 36 hours. Normally I do 12, but I'm going to try 36 this time. It's going to be delicious. So yeah, I know this just gives brining information, but I feel that you could take this and apply it to an oven baked turkey, or if you are comfortable with a smoker, then you can just go straight ahead to the smoker. The key thing when it comes to cooking the turkey, be it smoked or baked in an oven or what have you, you want to pull the turkey out of the heat when it hits 165 internal on the breast. Any higher than that and the bird starts drying out. Those little turkey timer pop out things that companies will put in the breast of the turkeys, just rip that out. It's no good. Those things don't burst till about 180 degrees, and by then your turkey is very dry and dead. So don't waste your time with that. Get yourself either a little probe thermometer like this, or if you can, one of those wired thermometers that you can just have the monitor on your countertop and plug it into the bird and pull it out. But again, 165 is your target temperature. Once it's at that, pull it out, set it someplace where it can just kind of mellow in its juices. If I'm going to be a couple hours before we serve, I will just take the whole thing, wrap it in a couple towels, and put that in a cooler, and it'll keep itself warm at a safe temperature until it's time to eat. I've done that and kept it warm for 6 hours with no issue. You just some nitrile gloves to keep my hands clean while working here. If you care, I'm just using the Chick-fil-A knife, something nice and sharp and thin that'll make getting around the carcass as easy as possible. Got a nice deep pan here to catch it again. There you go. I've got the brine in my bucket over here, already icing down, so I can just go straight from carving up to getting it into the brine. So I'll show you guys how I do this one, and then I'll take care of the other one after. Right now, I'm going to drain some juice. All right. Pull everything out of the inside. You got your neck. Oh, I forgot to look at how big this bird was. I'm going to look real quick. This particular butterball, 11.34 pounds. So, I don't do anything with the neck, so I'm just going to toss that. If I were going to turn this thing into sausage, I'd keep it and I'd take some of it off. All right, so these did not come with the typical bag of goodies. Nope, there it is. Stuff to get on the neck. All right, so in here, I'm sure you're aware you've got your heart, liver, all that, your gizzard, all that sort of stuff. Sometimes a gravy packet. I just toss all of that as well. All right. First things first, let's get these leg quarters out. So there's just going to be a natural seam that you can follow all the way down until you find the joint. Our goal is to get it off as close to that as we can. Keep as much meat on there as we can. Getting through these joints is the part that I'm still not very good at. Ooh, that actually went really well. When it comes to the actual cook, bundling this up, like I may stop rolling out tomorrow and get a bit of butcher's twine that I can tie this up with. That way I don't have these thin bits laying out in the smoker, and I can bundle it up in a nice little package like that, and it'll smoke nice. So I'm going to check my temperature here. That is nice and cold, so I'm just going to go straight in. I'm going to do that with the other leg here. Again, opening it up, cutting away that skin, just following the seam. And it'll just come apart pretty quickly if you find the seam and follow it. And finding that stinking joint is always the tricky part for me. Well, finding the joint isn't hard. Finding the spot in the joint where I can easily cut through. Again, that one went surprisingly well. And again, I definitely want some butcher's twine for that. So, into the brine. The plan is there's clearly not enough brine in here to fully submerge 2 turkeys. You do want them both fully submerged in the water. So what I'll be doing is, once all the birds are in, I will add water to the whole thing until they're completely submerged. And that way everything will give a bit of a mix too. That way everything will have the chance to get fully coated and penetrated by the brine. For this breast, I am doing my best to stay as close to the ribs as I can. That way I don't use any meat to it. And if I can get this wing off at the same time, I'll do that. Looks like I can. Alright, so there is a breast and wing quarter. Again, I could truss that up with a bit of twine. That would do really well in the smoker. So, into the brine we go. And for the awkward side, once everything's off, this thing becomes very one-sided in its weight. And I find is when it gets a little goofy. There we go. Again, just following those, work that rib cage down. And I'm going to give you the caveat: I've never cooked a turkey by quartering it. The closest I've come has been when I did it we did last week, and all I had was turkey breasts. Those cooked up real nice, so I'm going off that as my basis point for cooking it this way, so I'm not concerned. There we go, last quarter, and again, bundled up with the twine to give it a more uniform shape so we don't have all these floppy bits, and that'll come out real nice. Into the brine. Okay, at this point, if you are so inclined to save any part of the carcass for roasting, for making stock, go ahead and do what you want to with that. One downside I'm seeing to carving it up like this beforehand is I don't get to smoke these little backstrap pieces. So that's okay. I can save these. You can carve them out and cook them up for some breakfast. But there you go. Got both turkeys into the brine, made a mess, so mission accomplished. Second turkey was 11 pounds, point something, not 0.1, just a little under. As you can see here, the turkey all chopped up like this is actually able to fit nicely into the brine without any extra water. But there is a little bit above the water line, so I'm just going to add some cold water to it just to make sure that everything is nicely submerged, not going anywhere. Gentle stir with my mixing spoon from when I've made the brine. Again, we're just wanting to make sure that everything is able to be properly covered, or completely covered. And make sure that there's not much settled on the bottom, that everything gets as fair of a coating as we can. We'll just give it a gentle stir, and then finalize by making sure that as much as we can is below the water line. So we're good there. Okay, so if you have room in your fridge, put it in there to brine for the next couple days, for however long it needs to brine for. For me, that is the next. For me, that brine process is the next 36 hours. So, I've done it in 12, and it turns out great. And I think I said this, but this whole process can be done. And the way I've done it before is just with the turkey whole, not chopped up like this at all. All right, I'm gonna see if I can't squeegee this into the fridge. Guys, if you're doing this is when you apologize to your wife for messing up your organization. Hopefully in the fridge, because you move everything around. All right, and I do have sliding adjustable shelves here, but I also know from previous trainings that that is not enough room, so I need to dig a little bit more room and actually remove the shelf. Shelf is out. So that'll be out for a day and a half. Everything still fits in the fridge, and now so does our turkey. So there you go. So that's going to live in the fridge for the next couple days. Those little trimmed bits I've got here in a bag. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the rub. I'll talk about this here in a sec. I'm going to take some of the rub that I've just have pre-mixed and lying around, and I'm just going to essentially use this as like breakfast meat tomorrow because it's really good, even just pan fried. So put it in there, get everything nice and coated, and this is just going to kind of lightly wet brine itself in the fridge overnight, and I'll be able to cook it up in the cast iron tomorrow morning. And it'll be delicious. And it'll be great with some eggs. And remove all the air. There you go. Alright, that's going to go in the fridge as well. Again, that'll be part of my breakfast tomorrow. Now we find a safe place to hide the not hide, but to put the shelf. And now it comes time to clean up my mess. All right, now that I've got that all cleaned up, turkey is brining in the fridge. It's late. I need to go to bed. Just wanted to go over the next steps that will be covered. I'm going to put this out as a video in the morning so that anyone that wants to use this to prepare their turkey for this Thanksgiving, you'll have plenty of time to do it. So this also works for chicken, so you can just roast a whole chicken like this any time of the year. And turkey's not just a holiday thing, you can do that whenever, but you all know that. So we did the whole broth, or the whole brine, which was our water, chicken broth, salt, honey, sugar, peppercorns, fresh rosemary, garlic, ice, turkey. There you go. So I'm going to have mine brining for 36 hours. Again, I've done it for 10 to 12. Turns out great. Anywhere in between, I'm sure is fine. I've got a buddy at work who's brined his for 72 hours. That's his preference. And then he smokes it just real slow. He says it turns out great. So when we're ready to smoke, I will remove them from the brine. rinse them off a little bit with some cold water, and then pat them dry with paper towels so that they're not just sloppy and slippery. And then what I'll do is I will apply my rub. Now I've taken my rub from a guy named Aaron Franklin. He's the owner of Franklin Barbecue in Austin, Texas, and he's put his rub recipe out there for the world. And I've just got a bottle of it here, pre-made, left over from when I cooked all those turkeys at work. So I'll pat the bird dry. I will apply the rub. This time, because I'm doing those small pieces, I will truss it up with some butcher's twine just to keep it as a homogeneous chunk, and so the little bits don't dry out too quick. If I were doing a full bird, not broken down like I've done tonight, what I would do then is after I pull everything out of the brine, I would strain the brine and catch any bits of garlic, peppercorns, and rosemary. And I typically will stuff all of that into the cavity of the bird so that it smokes with the bird and adds a little extra flavor. I've always liked how that's turned out. It's been really good. And then I was mentioning earlier, so bird gets rubbed, getting ready to cook it. I was mentioning earlier that the 165 is your cutoff point because the bird will dry out. Beyond that, I have tried a turkey that made it up to 200 degrees internal, and that was almost beef jerky. That was almost turkey jerky, and it was not good. So I will be smoking mine I'm shooting for a internal smoker temperature of 225, give or take 15 degrees. That should smoke the turkey at about 45 minutes per pound. So these breasts are probably 2 pounds. That's going to go real quick. But for a whole bird, 3, 4, 5 hours at most, depending on, like, I'm using a wood-fired smoker, so I will have to manage the fire. So depending on my fire management skills, will determine how that goes. If you're using a pellet smoker, which I've done for years, works great. It's a lot easier to maintain that temperature. Then you just kind of monitor it and keep an eye on those temperatures. Lowe's 5-gallon bucket. It was the 5-gallon, not bigger. Looking for an internal temperature of 165. If you are smoking the turkey whole, you want to have the leg quarters further from the heat source so that they cook slower than the breasts, as the breasts will take longer because they're a bigger chunk of meat. So now to go over a little bit of what's in this rub. The Aaron Franklin gave very precise measurements, but it allows you to kind of tailor it to your own taste. But it is, and variations of this can be used for beef, ribs, pork ribs, chicken, and turkey. I will go over the entire list, which is what you use for chicken and turkey, in the comments or description or somewhere with this video. I will include a PDF or a link to a PDF that is the brine and the barbecue rub ingredients. So the rub is 1 part black pepper, 1 part salt. Again, I've done kosher, I've done sea salt, I've done Himalayan pink salt. It's all fine. Okay, I don't know enough of a difference to tell you how it would taste differently otherwise. So one of those 3 would be great. A smidge of garlic powder, a smidge of onion powder, a smidge of chili powder, 2 smidges of paprika, 1 smidge of dry mustard, and then 1 more part of black pepper and a smidge of brown sugar. So it comes out with a very peppery bark on the turkey, but it is quite delicious. I absolutely loved it. Love it. Again, modified versions of this can be used for a variety of meats. So pat the meat dry, rub it, apply the rub, pat it on so that it adheres. You don't want to rub it because it'll just all come off. And then again, I'm going to truss mine up with a bit of butcher's twine, let it smoke. When I get an internal temperature of 140 degrees or more, depending on when I catch it, that is the point when I will pull it off, wrap it in foil, and then put it back on. Now, during the smoking process of all my meats, I take, hang on, as I throw stuff on the floor. I take one of these sprayer bottles. I just picked this up at Lowe's, washed it out really good, and I use this to apply a blend of 1-to-1 ratio of apple juice and apple cider vinegar, modified to your own taste. But what the goal with that is every hour or so I will go out and I will spray everything down. This cools the outside of the meat and slows its cooking while allowing the middle to keep maintaining its temperature and continue cooking, so you prevent the outside from burning essentially. So I'll do that every hour or so depending on my mood. And then when I wrap it with foil, I will spray a good, maybe a quarter cup more of that mixture into the foil and wrap that up with the meat, and let it finish smoking like that. And it turns out real juicy. Tons of juices to use for a gravy if you feel so inclined. My sister's going to be doing that with the drippings from all of this, so I need to make sure I really wrap it well so we don't lose any of that. Yeah, that's it. Again, I will do another video that shows I'll do my best to take video of the smoking process and how it turns out so that I can put that up after the holiday and you guys can see that, and then again follow that to your own discretion, whatever, for the next time you want to smoke a turkey or a chicken. If you have any questions, feel free to either comment or send me a message depending on how you're receiving this video, and I am happy to answer any questions. Good luck. Last thing, gentlemen, if you're doing this, make sure you throw away your garbage can or your garbage that is full of turkey carcass so your dog doesn't get to it and your wife doesn't have to smell it in the morning.